Welcome to video number 3 in Food 2016, and today I'm going to be talking about eating the right foods, and I hope that what I share with you is helpful because I know that a lot of people have confusion about what foods they should be eating and what foods are good for you and what foods are not. I know there's a lot of conflicting information out there, and you hear, one year something's bad for you and the next year something's good for you, that same thing, and then you hear something that was good for you is now bad for you. So it is confusing, and I had to work my way through that jungle, really get back to some science. That was what helped me the most, and then also common sense, because the bottom line is that humans have been eating food for many, many, many years now, and it hasn't been complicated until we started to process stuff and think about food. So this first step here is eating the right food and getting an idea of what the right food is. And like I said, I really focused on the science because that helped clarify things for me. And the science is fairly strong about what the right food is for people. There's a website called choosemyplate.gov, which keeps it very simple. Half your plate at every meal should be fruits and vegetables. And if you don't happen to sit down and have a plate, then you want to be thinking about it in the course of a day, that 9 to 13 servings a day should be fruits and vegetables. And so, again, I get a question a lot of times, what's a serving? Well, a serving is what you can pretty easily hold in the palm of your hand. So, probably half an apple. So technically 1 apple is 2 servings. So even though 9 to 13 is a big number, it's really not as daunting as you think when you start looking at it in terms of actual amounts of food. But the good news here is that you get to eat a lot. That I love to eat food, and I don't like the idea of limiting what I can eat and depriving myself in any way, shape, or form. So this really is the good news, is that you can eat 13, 15 times a day if you're eating fruits and vegetables. You can just keep going at it. Now here's another way to visualize that half your plate. Half of this plate is vegetables, and then there's some rice, and then there's some animal protein if you choose to eat that. Not everybody chooses to eat that, and that's fine. So what you'll see here is that it's just plain fruits and vegetables. There are no sauces, there aren't any oils or any butter, and that really is the key, is to just eat undoctored fruits and vegetables, stuff that's not processed and stuff that's just the real McCoy. It's actually whole food. And one of the reasons that they make these recommendations is because of the science. And the science is what really helped me understand how profound this is. There are over 172 studies, really solid studies, showing that fruits and vegetables prevent cancer. And this is where I started. My dad was diagnosed with cancer at a very young age, about 61. And I, at the time, thought cancer was a genetic disease. And it's not to say there isn't a genetic connection, but one of his oncologists sat us down and said, look, 85 to 90% of the people that I treat are here simply because they have not eaten enough fruits and vegetables. And that was an eye-opener for me on several fronts. First of all, I didn't realize that I could control my health outcome, or at least have some control over my health outcome by my diet. And second of all, I didn't realize that it was a simple thing. It was eating fruits and vegetables. So, those were two areas that I had to readjust my thinking. And the other concept that he shared with me was that the real risk that I was creating for myself was not eating the fruits and vegetables. By not eating those two food groups, I was increasing my risk. And the science has shown this, that your risks are doubled or tripled if you fall into that lowest intake of fruits and vegetables. And as a result of this science, the American Cancer Society produced this poster, which is called Reduce Your Risk. And they could have used any title that they wanted on here, but they opted for this Reduce Your Risk because they know that the people who eat the most fruits and vegetables consistently have the lowest risk for cancer. And so that became my new philosophy, was I was going to reduce my risk, and the way I was going to do it was by eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. And it's not just cancer. The Framingham Heart Study is one of the longest ongoing epidemiological studies in the world. They're looking at 3 generations of people, and they've looked at what they're eating in terms of their risk for stroke. And what's interesting about this is that it's a long, ongoing study. It's done on people, but they found this linear reduction, which normally you don't see such a linear thing. But they found for every 3 servings of fruits and vegetables that a person eats in the course of a day, they can reduce their risk by an additional 22%. So if you have 3 servings a day, you reduce your risk of stroke by 22%. If you have 6 servings a day, that ups it to 44% reduction in risk. And if you hit 9 servings a day, you reduce your risk by 66%. So it's powerful. These numbers are very, very powerful, and it's within your control. I think that's the biggest thing. Henry lost his mom to a stroke, and I think with hindsight, if she'd known these numbers, she might have made some changes in her life. But it's within our control to do something about this, which is pretty amazing. And it's not just these organizations. The World Health Organization made this statement that they attribute 2.6 million deaths a year simply to inadequate consumption of fruits and vegetables. That is a huge, huge number. So when it comes to eating the right food, you've got a lot of research, you've got major organizations, and everyone agrees that one of the key components in your diet has to be whole fruits and vegetables. And the science gets a little deeper when you compare us to other countries. When you look at countries that eat a lot of unrefined plant foods, that's most of their diet is just not processed. It's just straight up fruits and vegetables. They have a very, very low incidence of heart disease and cancer. And if you compare us to those countries, we have a very low consumption of unrefined plant foods, and then as a result of that have a high death rate from heart disease and cancer. So, there really is this inverse relationship that, again, a lot of people don't know about. I didn't know about it, and it's such a clear connection that it's needs to get out there. This message needs to be shared with people, because once you understand that it's really about what you eat, and it's not all about what you eat, but a huge part of it is about what you eat, and that's something you control. That became very empowering to me. But like a lot of you, I was faced with what this mom's faced with, actually eating the fruits and veggies. Once I decided, okay, this is what we're going to do, we're going to eat a lot of fruits and veggies, I suddenly had kids who they wouldn't eat green beans, or they wouldn't eat whatever. Henry loves lima beans. I can't stand lima beans. One of my daughters gags on stuff. Sometimes people have allergies to food. So, it becomes very, very complicated to actually just start eating fruits and veggies, because you've got so many different tastes going on. And another part of the equation is that we tend to psych ourselves out. We'll say, and I've said stuff like this, I am eating my fruits and veggies. This is peach ice cream on top of carrot cake. So, okay, it's really ice cream and cake, but if you throw in the word peach and you throw in the word carrot, you can kind of fake yourself out. And the problem is that the consequence of faking ourselves out is that we have some significant health challenges. 1 in 3 people live with some form of heart disease in this country. 1 in 3 women will develop some type of a cancer. 1 in 2 men will develop cancer. And by 2050, we're looking at half the population dealing with diabetes. And diabetes has so many other ramifications in terms of health challenges. 1 in 3 people in this country are obese, if not more. It keeps rising at a really rapid rate, and I'll address that in a moment. And here's the other dynamic. When we spend our money on healthcare, and it really isn't healthcare, it's really disease management care, we are taking money that could be used for something else just to sort of stopgap and band-aid other problems. And I realize that we need those stopgaps and those band-aids so that people can function. But if we were to turn things around from a different perspective and kind of look at prevention and what could we do to prevent these disease states from happening in the first place, we would have so much extra money to spend on other stuff, because we're just displacing how we're spending our money because the need demands it. And Dr. David Katz is at Yale, and he was quoted by the Wall Street Journal as saying that this might be the first generation to have a shorter life expectancy than their parents, because if you look at what's happening with children's health, it's pretty shocking. By age 12, many children have developed the beginning stages of hardening of the arteries. 1 in 3 children are obese. 1 in 3 are either pre-diabetic or diabetic. And here's the scariest part. The American Academy of Pediatrics is recommending that children as young as 8 be treated with cholesterol-lowering statin drugs. I don't know too many parents who want their 8-year-old on a statin drug. I think that the challenge here is a fairly large challenge. Some of it is a mindset, some of it is education, and some of it is just a paradigm shift that needs to happen, where we start to look at, okay, why are children developing these disease states that in a previous generation or 2 generations ago really weren't affecting people until they were in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. So that is part of it. And I know that one of the reasons that physicians make these recommendations to get kids on medication is to slow down the progression of a disease state. And I'm sure that most of them, if asked, would say, yes, I would like this patient to change their diet and lifestyle, but I can't get them to do it. And so what we're going to talk about in tomorrow's video is stopping eating the wrong foods. And why is that so challenging? You know, that really is a tough part of the equation that people find hard to do. And that's what a lot of pediatricians are dealing with, is that they've got these kids that have these health challenges. They want to correct those health challenges. They would prefer to have the family do it through diet and lifestyle changes, but it's very, very hard to get the family to implement those changes. And I'm sure that you've been facing some of those challenges yourself. So tomorrow, what I'll talk about is how do we stop eating the wrong foods? Why is it so hard to do that? And what are some strategies for helping you eliminate those from your diet? Because it is a huge part of the equation, and it's definitely a challenge. So thanks again for watching, and look forward to the next video.